Hey YouTube, welcome to another Valkyrie Connect video. My name is Hakeo, and in this video we'll be going over the Ultra Connect battle Ragnarok. I'll be going over his mechanics, example items and units that you can use, and after going over the example items and units that you can use in the Connect battle, I'll go over the full fight itself and how to cancel the tail swipe to cancel Eclipse field, and I'll be going over some team compositions that you can use, one without Erd, one without Odin, an all physical attack team, and one where Brunhild is the tank. The first thing we'll be going over is his SP item. With Ragnarok tokens, you can purchase either his souls or his SP item. The SP item has base stats of HP and magic attack, and the effect is that it deals dark physical damage and dark wounds and exhausts for 2 turns to the target with the highest magic attack. The magic attack is also then converted into physical damage. Ragnarok is accompanied by 2 sets of crystals, a Force Crystal set, which is the magic row, same row as Ragnarok, and the magic crystal set, which is the range row behind Ragnarok. The Force Crystals, the magic row deals AoE blind for 5 turns to all heroes in the Connect battle. Keep in mind that blind only affects humans, elves, and Jotun, and it applies a defense buff to itself for 2 turns, applies a physical reflect barrier to Ragnarok for 2 turns. The magic crystals, the range row, puts out a high chaos field pulsing effect to all units in the Connect battle. You can resist this by using a night ring. And it also deals dark magic damage to the nearest enemy, applies a magic defense buff to itself, and a magic reflect barrier to Ragnarok for 2 turns. Keep in mind that for both crystals, they apply at different phases of Ragnarok. The Force Crystal applies its barrier in phase 1 and 3. The Magic Crystal puts the barrier on phase 2 and 3. One thing to keep in mind with both of these crystals is that they can be destroyed by an all magic team and all physical team. It doesn't have to be the unit of the opposite type. So the Force Crystal doesn't need to have a magic unit to destroy it. You can use physical units, it'll just take longer. Ragnarok has an active and auto skill. His active skill deals dark damage, dark wounds, and exhaust for 3 turns to all units in the Connect battle. The magic attack is then converted to physical damage. Dark wounds only applies to grounded enemies, and exhaust only applies to humans, elves, and Jotuns. His auto skill removes barriers, deals magic damage, dark wounds, and exhaust for 3 turns, plus applies an Eclipse and Gravity field to all units in the Connect battle. Dark wounds only applies to grounded enemies, and again, exhaust only applies to humans, elves, and Jotuns. Keep in mind that Gravity field only starts applying during the 2nd and 3rd phase. Next up, we'll be going over some example items that you can use in the Connect battle. We have our multi-hitting items Key to Asgard, Vingolf, Shining Soleil, and Yggdrasil Blade. For our single target items, we have Dios Cuernos, Valhalla Sword, Valhalla Staff, and Valhalla Bow. For armor and accessories, we have Radiant Shield, Oracle Robe, Knight's Ring, and Saint's Robe. For single target items, I highly suggest that you only use them as a stat buffer and to help push the phase through whenever you destroy all of the crystals. Mainly due to him having a reflection barrier. Every time the items proc, the unit will damage itself if it's not of the correct type. For our multi-hitting items, it's pretty self-explanatory why they're used. One, because they deal light damage or neutral damage, and they have a multi-hitting property where they're able to hit either the row or the entire Connect battle. Lastly, we have our armor and accessories. For Radiant Shield, the reason why you want to use shields is because his tail swipe removes barriers. You can use items such as Radiant Shield and Odysseus Shield. You want to avoid items such as Glacial Cloak, Ray's Shield, or Ray herself, due to them being removed. Oracle Robe is a really good item due to it applying a physical defense down, and also reduces the physical attack of Ragnarok. His active ability is physical base, so that way you can sustain more of the damage with this item. Saint's Robe is quite the opposite, where it reduces the magic attack of Ragnarok, and his tail swipe is magic attack base. This allows you to overall reduce the incoming damage as well. With the Night Ring, make sure you use the correct one with your race so you can start resisting the high chaos field damage. Some other notable items that you can use in this Connect would be Asgard Blade, Bulldozer, Shiranui Fan, Kula's Lollipop, Ibuki's Essence, and Dark Feather Cloak. Next up, we'll be going over some example units that you can use in the Connect battle. We'll start with our tanks and healers, then move on to our DPS. For our tanks and healers, we have Materia, Gazer, Erd, and Chocolate Noah. With Materia, the reason why she is good is one, because of her high dark resistance and the gravity field. Not only does she have good resistance towards Ragnarok, she also can deal damage towards Ragnarok while applying a shield to herself, not a barrier. Gazer, like Materia, has high dark resistance and gravity field. The difference is that he applies CC resistance to himself for 3 turns and a 40% shield to all units on your team. He also deals damage like Materia, making him very ideal for this Connect battle. Other notable tanks that you can use in the Connect battle would be Shiro Emiya, which is from the Fate Stay collab if you were present at the time, Zodi, Volunder, and Brunhild. Next up, we have our healers. We have Erd and Chocolate Noah. With Erd, it's pretty self-explanatory. She has moderate dark resistance and gravity field, with the ability to also heal outside of her active. Erd is the main healer to go for in this Connect battle if you have her. If not, another healer that you can use is Chocolate Noah, one because of her high dark resistance and her Eclipse field passive. The reason why she is good is that she applies quick to your units and she does a minor heal. The reason why the quick is good is because Eclipse field, when placed on your team, is based off of the target's turns, not Ragnarok's turns. If you can quick your units to get them through the Eclipse field quicker, you should be able to heal within the time frame of the double punches before the tail swipe goes again, which allows you to heal with either winged helm, straw hats, or other items that you can get your unit's HP up. Next up, we have our DPS. We have Awakened Skald, Norn, Sif, and Munin. With Awakened Skald and Norn, you have to be careful due to their low dark resistance, but them having gravity field, they can use their ability in items more frequently, as opposed to those with Eclipse field. One of the main things about Skald and Norn is that you have to balance between their DPS and physical magical defenses, since Ragnarok deals both magical and physical damage. With Sif, she is only viable if you own her costume. Her costume are the gauntlets that deals light damage to the nearest 3 enemies, and it also gives her a dark shield as well as a counter attack. Without the costume, she's not very viable towards Ragnarok, so you can just skip her even if you own her. With Munin, though she doesn't have gravity field, she does apply quick, and she has Eclipse field, which allows her to always be in full heal whenever Ragnarok does his tail swipe. For our last set of DPS, we have Awakened Odin, Unit 13, Awakened Verdandi, and Awakened Chun-Li. Odin, though he does not have gravity field, he does have Eclipse field, which allows him to take full heal every time tail swipe happens. He may not be able to attack as frequently as others with gravity field, but his high damage, his ability to buff your team as well, makes him very viable and the best mage that you can use on this Connect battle. Unit 13 is the budget version of Odin. He has gravity field, but the drawback is that he deals way less damage and he has less defensive stats. Awakened Verdandi is one of the best DPS that you can use in this Connect battle due to her ability to hit the back row, which is the magic row, making them weak to physical damage. Chun-Li, though she doesn't have the correct element to deal damage to Ragnarok, she can debuff Ragnarok for the rest of your team to deal more damage. She's more of a utility unit than a DPS unit. Lastly, we'll be going over the fight for Ragnarok. I'll be taking you step by step on how the fight goes and ways to cancel Eclipse field and predict his incoming active. We'll go over a full physical damage team, an Odinless team, an Erdless team, and a team with Brunhild as the tank. Before we start, I want to go over the basics of Ragnarok. He will always start out the fight with tail swipe, punch, punch, tail swipe, punch, punch. His active ability is dictated by how much damage you deal to him. In a sense, it's like his SP gauge. Depending the damage you do, whether it's high or low, he'll start using his active early on or later on. Every team is different, and after you do so many Connect battles, you'll learn when he starts doing his active, since your damage will average out, and generally around this time is when he uses his active. Another thing to keep in mind is that phases 1 and 2 continue off of each other. If, for example, he uses punch, punch, tail swipe, and then dies into the second phase, he'll start out the second phase with tail swipe, punch, and punch. It continues off of each other, it doesn't reset. For phase 3, no matter where you end up in phase 2, he will always reset and start out with tail swipe, punch, punch, and so forth. You'll get to understand it a bit more when I show you the video and walk you through it. What you're about to see is my full physical attack team, and as you'll notice, when the fight starts, Ragnarok will start up with tail swipe, into a punch, and then another punch, and then he'll repeat the pattern again and again. The only difference is that depending on the damage that you do to him is when his active will activate. I should expect an active to activate either now or after the first punch, which as you saw, it activated after his tail swipe. Every time you get used to when his active activates, be careful not to activate your ability as well, because if he does use his active and you use your ability, the abilities that you use will be cancelled since he stuns your team. With Erd, as you'll notice, when I use her heal, I will always wait until 2 actions after the second tail swipe. For example, if he uses tail swipe into tail swipe, 2 actions will either be his active into a punch or 2 punches, because the active is also considered 1 action. When his second action activates, then you can use Erd's heal and then get your LB ready to start using your limit burst on his next tail swipe. Keep in mind that you want to get used to delaying the tail swipe as long as possible, because the longer you wait before the Eclipse field activates, the higher chance you have during the animation of the limit burst for his tail swipe to be within that animation. Sometimes you'll activate a limit burst, it'll end, and then he'll use his tail swipe. And as you notice, when he hits the second phase, he doesn't reset to a tail swipe, he continues off of what he had before. And as you saw, I used my heal, waited for the action to go through, and then I used the limit burst just at the very end of the tail swipe. And you'll see within the animation here, he'll use his tail swipe, which I avoid the Eclipse field, and now I can freely use my active. One thing to keep in mind is that once the second phase ends, third phase will reset and he'll use tail swipe no matter where he ended with the second phase. When third phase happens, you have 1 or 2 choices. You can either start canceling his active to reduce as much damage as possible, or you can continue to cancel out his tail swipe to keep healing. The difficulty of canceling out his tail swipe in the third phase is that you'll have to survive 2 full tail swipes before you can start canceling. The reason being is that generally within the second tail swipe that comes through, the second set, he'll use his active in between the 2 tail swipes. As you're going to see here, he uses his punch into another punch, and then his active right after the first tail swipe. And that's what you want to avoid. If you use your limit burst during that tail swipe, and then his active happens in the animation, there's not enough time for the second tail swipe to happen where you can cancel the Eclipse. So that means you'll have to use your limit burst after the second set of tail swipes, which as you saw here, I canceled. Now for the rest of the video, I'll show you how my friend Luzeldon did his Ragnarok with Chocolate Noah as the healer, and my brother who used Brunhild, and also my team, which is Odinless, with Unit 13 as the mage. So some things to recap is that you don't have to have the perfect team to defeat Ragnarok, especially with the level cap raising up from the initial release when 65 was the cap. And there are various avenues in which you can take to tackle down Ragnarok. Make sure that you understand his patterns, that it goes from tail swipe, punch, punch. Once you do a few of the connect battles, you'll notice when he starts using his active depending on your damage. And that way you can avoid activating your limit burst during his active. You can start avoiding using your unit's abilities during his active where he can cancel and stun your units. And another thing to keep in mind is that you want to gear for both physical and magical defense, since he deals both types of damage. Some good example items that you want to keep in mind would be shields, Bangle Defense, and Bangle Faith. Items that either will be stat sticks such as Valhalla items, just to get that little bit of damage into your unit so that you'll be able to start destroying the crystals as soon as possible. I highly recommend that you use items such as Saint's Robe and Oracle Robe, mainly because they help you sustain the damage coming towards you due to reducing his magic attack and physical attack, and also reducing his defense, allowing you to do more damage as well. Below, I'm going to provide you a link of an Excel sheet that has the builds of both the physical attack, Odinless, Erdless, and Brunhild tank builds. You can use this as a template and then adjust accordingly. Remember, I tried to make this as budget friendly as possible, so you may have better items such as Saint Sickle, Wing Boots, or other accessories to be more optimal for the Connect battle. And if you like the video, please like the video. If you like this type of content, please subscribe. And if you aren't already involved in the Valkyrie Connect community, I'll provide a link to the Discord and Reddit below. If you aren't already following me on Twitter, I'll provide a link to that below as well, just to see what I've been up to in the game, and to also be updated in some Japanese side client news. If you have any questions or suggestions, just put in the comments below. And until next time, guys, take care.
Within the sound of silence, in restless dreams I walked alone. Narrow streets of cobblestone, beneath the halo of the street lamp, I turned my collar to the golden damp. When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light that split the night, Mama told me when I was young, come sit beside me, my only son, my son, and listen closely to what I have to say, 'cause it will help you someday. To be a simple kind of man and be something you love and understand, and be a simple kind of man. And won't you do this for me, son, if you can? Forget your lust for rich man's gold. All you need is in your soul, and you can do this if you try. All that I want for you, my son, is to be satisfied, to be a simple kind of man, and be something you love and understand. Be a simple kind of man.
from the dark.